operated this mill, you know, in 1873.
Yeah.
His last name we know is Shurter, because this is the Shurter mill in Samsonville. But
Yeah.
what was your great-grandfather's first name?
Anthony.
Anthony Shurter. So we know that this was in operation over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's something.
It was 1870.
1873. So this was a house, and this was the wall, and you say these large objects here. What are they?
They are the stones that ground the feed and buckwheat flour in the grist mill.
Right. Buckwheat flour. That was grown around here, then, I suppose.
I suppose it must have been.
Yeah, down further, maybe on the way to Olive Bridge, and that's something. You said too they use these to grind clover. I never heard about that before.
Yes, my Anthony Scherter ground clover seed for cattle.
For cattle and horses. And I guess you were pointing over here, and you were saying this is where the pasture gate was, or something,
Yes.
something like that.
Up here was where the pasture gate was.
Huh. Did you have many cattle, or did your father?
My
or
father
grandfather
had 8,
Yeah.
and then a lot of young stock too, you know,
Yeah.
and horses.
Maybe we could walk up this way a little bit and tell us something more of what we're seeing. This is the old path, I guess.
Yes,
the old road up to the
this
tannery, or the grist mill. I've got tanneries on my mind too today. We're thinking about that down below.
heading mill. This is a heading mill up here.
What do they do in a heading mill? Maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Well, the to put them down on rollers. And then we pulled them up with a cant hook, so it cut off blocks, each block, you know. And those blocks were then put on by a table saw, and the slabs on each side, on 2 sides, were cut off. And then they were put on a machine. In the machine was like a carriage. I can't tell you. I seen it work. But that would saw heading or shingles, either one.
And heading was what they put on barrels, isn't that?
That was barrel heads, yes.
The heads of barrels.
Yes.
That's something.
See, they were wheeled out here on the yard. Sometimes there was as many as 5 rows of heading there.
Wow.
And us girls, of course, my sister-in-law and my sister next to me, and Harry Christiana and Claude, my cousins, they helped pile heading.
Wow.
And so did a woman that now lives in Binghamton.
Oh my God!
I didn't know that till I started writing to her.
Did your father pay you for stacking that heading?
No, but he did pay this neighbor. He paid her.
Yeah. You don't know what they paid, do you? Or what kind of wages?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Probably a lot less than nowadays.
Oh yes, but I have no idea. Don Benatin worked for him. Elijah Shurter, you know Ethel's father,
Yes.
he worked in the mill after he didn't teach school any longer.
Oh my gosh. Well, this then up here is level, I suppose. We'll get up there to see it, but that's where all the heading was piled.
Yes,
I see.
there, and sometimes down there by the hog pen, I told you.
Well,
we had a couple of rows of heading.
Did the wagons then come in this way and pick it up? I mean, there was no train here or anything like that.
My father had a heading wagon. Well, it was narrow on the front and back, but then it was very wide through the middle between the wheels.
Right.
And he took that barrel heads, was all baled up, to Binnywater. And there was some place along the line where it was a very bad hill. And when they came to this hill, each man from the different places would wait there with his team. And they'd hook each other's teams on and help them up the hill.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, someplace between here and Binnywater. I don't know.
Why did they go to Binnywater? I mean, is that where they were used? Was there a factory there or something?
I don't know, but there's a factory there. Perhaps there was.
Yeah.
But that's where it went.
Let's move up the hill if we can a little bit here. I think we've... This is such a beautiful spot, Mrs. Kelsey. You see these large pine trees here. I suppose they were a little bit smaller when you were a girl.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
they
imagine
were.
so.
Some
And you,
of 'em.
and you swam in here. This was.
Yeah.
What was this like? I suppose it wasn't swampy the way it is now.
No, it was a real big dam in here.
Was the water like over your head? I mean, could you really?
Yes, in spots.
Yeah.
And my sisters and I used to go swimming here, and the neighbor children too.
Do you sneak away from work to do that?
No, we would have to help with it, get in hay or hoe potatoes or whatever there was.
Yeah. And then you could maybe.
Then we
Maybe
could
go
go
for a
swimming.
swim.
Parents didn't object.
Well, why did they need all this water? I mean, what did they do with it? I know that sounds like a silly question, but.
They ran the sawmill and the grist mill both. And then down just above the bridge there was another sawmill, an up and down sawmill.
So in other words, the water was built back up in here, and then it came through. You said there's a pipe,
There's a great big
great
pipe
big
there.
pipe under here, maybe 4 or 5 feet in diameter,
Yes.
and that would. There's a screen there to keep logs out, I guess, and the water would go through the pipe, and then where did it go? Can you maybe point to where it went?
And well, that screen was to keep the leaves and sticks out from the
I
big
see.
pipe.
I see.
Otherwise they'd go down onto the wheels that ran the mill.
Yeah. Well, then the mill is right down below here. This was the
Yeah.
heading mill.
This was the heading
And
mill.
then below the heading mill was what?
The grist mill.
The grist mill. There wasn't a third mill, was there?
Just the sawmill, just,
the up and-
above the ridge.
The up and
That
down
didn't
saw.
belong to the Scherters.
Oh, I see. That was not part of the Shurter property. You don't know offhand when this dam was built, do you? It's a beautiful dam of wood and bluestone.
I have no idea, but I do know in 1872, it was 72.
1872 instead of
That
70.
Anthony Shurter, my great-grandfather, owned it.
Do you think that this dam has been here that long? I suppose it has.
Yes, been here a long time.
Yeah. My gosh. And what's the name of this stream that comes
This
down
is the
through
Markham Creek,
here? The Markham Creek.
Markham.
Yeah. Right. I see that the creek is kind of a reddish color, sort of. I wonder if that's from the hemlock trees or something. You know, they say like
Well,
tannin in the water. or
It don't
something.
run, isn't running over there, so some of it's getting kind of stagnant there, I believe.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it.
And of course, there's a lot of grass and things that's grown up in it, filled up.
Yeah,
When
Right.
they have floods, the sand must have come down.
that could be. Do you remember what it was like when your father worked here and when you worked here? I mean, obviously we're seeing only the ruins of a great mill, but can you describe it more the way it was, or
Well-
what a day was like at the mill?
Well, of course the men worked on the mill. Us girls didn't
Yeah.
do any piling heading. Sister-in-law piled heading, her sister next to my sister, next to her, my brother,
Right.
and Harry Christiana and Claude. They were our
Right.
cousins.
Well, did the men come to work very early?
Oh, I imagine probably around 8 o'clock. I really don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. They probably worked a long day too.
Yes, I imagine
suppose.
so. At noontime, Clyde Shurter, our cousin, Ethel Floyd's father, came to the house for lunch with us. And Mother, of course, had to get dinner at noontime.
All right. Did they have a whistle or something that blew?
No, no, we did. When we had dinner, we had to help her, of course. Well, we weren't in school. In the big house there, upstairs window, we hung a dish towel. And when Dad saw that, he knew dinner was ready. Then they'd come to the house.
Great. That's really good.
But, of course, we pulled the logs onto the onto the rollers with the cant hook. And then we pulled it up with the cant hook, just enough to cut off the length we want, the blocks, you know.
Well, is a cant hook something that kind of comes down on it and pulls it that way or
It's,
something?
I guess they were that long, and then there's a iron hook on it.
I see.
and hooked that into the logs.
And that pulled them right onto the saw.
Up by the saw, in front of the saw. Then we took this big iron thing and pulled it over.
Right.
The saw, I did that some. The other girls didn't. They were too small. But, of course, it was mostly the men, you know, except we helped. Our father didn't employ a couple men when my brother was in the Army.
How many men would you say worked here at any one time?
2.
2, about?
And when Virgil Barringer, Dad's cousin, was, if they needed any carpenter work, he came.
I see.
But Elijah Shurter and Don Vanette, they did the regular work.
They did most of it. How long would you say this mill here was in operation? You were talking about a great flood that occurred, and that was pretty much the end of...
That was the end of the grist mill. Jessen, his son Lawrence, Dad died in 44. No, 40. 1940. And so 1920, the mill was in operation. But Jess and Lawrence planed lumber up here. That was the last.
Oh, that was the last that was done.
Yeah.
So probably it wasn't in operation after about 1928 or 27 or something.
No,
like
it wasn't.
I see.
The grist mill, well, Jess did. 1920, they were still working in the grist mill.
Yeah, that was about it.
Jess or my father both.
Right.
Of course, the last of the chicken feed was ground. It was ground and mixed for chicken feed and stock feed.
Good. Let's go down below now.
I guess they found a better way up there.
What happened in... We were talking about the saw a couple of minutes ago, and I noticed there are 2 saws. Why is that?
This is a crosscut saw here, and do I tell
Sure,
about the rollers?
Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear it.
Well, there were rollers right along here, and we used a cant hook to pull the logs up in front of that saw. And then we grasped that iron and pulled it over, cut off the blocks. And then the blocks were taken to that table saw.
That's the one way over by the falls.
Yes.
Right.
And we cut off 2 sides of the bark. And then the blocks were put into another saw that you just push a button, it went back and forth itself, so the block was all cut. And then they were taken by wheelbarrow out to the mill yard and piled. They had to be piled so the wind would go through them.
I see. It was probably pretty dangerous working next to these saws, wasn't it?
Well, yes, but you know what? My sister-in-law, when Jess was in the Army, that's when we worked on the mills the most. Then my sister-in-law and my sister and I, we made campfire girls' middies and bloomers, I guess they called them, because we was afraid to work with our dresses around the logs.
Yeah, that's right. Well, did anybody ever get hurt here?
No, not that I know of.
No, just you were saying. A little bit, huh?
Carelessness.
Yeah, what happened?
I just looked the other way when I put my hand out.
Oh, my gosh. Did it kind of cut across your hand? I see you have all your fingers, so it wouldn't have been too bad.
Yes, cut.
Oh, I see a little bit of a scar there,
But you can scarcely see the scars.
Yeah. Did they take you to the doctor, or Dr. Bloom or someone?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Mother probably put peroxide on.
Yeah, most
But
likely.
they weren't cut that much, you know.
Yeah.
If they'd been cut, well.
Yeah, you were really fortunate. I mean, you could have probably
Yeah.
lost your whole arm or something like that.
But it's just my carelessness.
Yeah. I see now that a lot of quaking aspen trees here are taking over in this area. I mean, how do you feel about the fact that the mill isn't running anymore? You say it hasn't been running since the 20s and was used a little bit up until about 1940, you said.
Yeah. Well, sorry it isn't, you know, those things didn't go on, but there comes changes.
Yeah, is that really why the mill was discontinued?
Well, my father got on the milk route, and he was, you know, getting too old to work on the mill.
Yeah.
And then Jess had a family, and he bought different land, and they'd cut the logs off, Jess, and then, well, he always had a man or two working for him. Then he'd sell the land, and sometimes I guess he just contracted for the lumber or the timber that was on it.
So neither of your brothers, Jesse and the other one, I don't remember his name, they didn't want to take over the mill then?
Well, he wanted the mill property, yes, because of the water, but he didn't. It went to Jesse when our father died. The girls gave the mills to Jesse because he was the only one that would use them.
Yeah.
But he used them very little after he got them.
Yeah. Well, then what ultimately happened to the mill? I mean, was it just left? No one did anything with it, or
no?
You didn't sell anything off, or?
No, just went down. So
yeah.
The last few years, when the was more dry weather, my brother bought a gasoline engine put down in under. It's still in there.
Ah, I see. When was that? When would you say? What?
Well,
1930s or 40s or something?
Yes, I would say around the 20s, 30s. I don't know exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's still a very beautiful and peaceful place here.
Yeah.
It really is.
When we lived down in the big house, windows were loose in the dining room and kitchen, and they rattled all the time.
That was up because of the mill?
That was because of the falls.
Oh, the falls, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
There were great long logs across there to hold back the water. And under this rock, big rock here, was a big pipe that let the water into the grist mill.
There was a big dam, you said, here?
Yes, that was the middle dam. There were great long trees across there. And right in under there is where the big pipe went from the dam down to the grist mill, big iron pipe. And years ago there was a wooden pipe in there, but they took that out and put in a iron pipe. It was got leaking.
Yeah, I see. And this here, you say, was the grist mill right down here?
Yes.
That's where they did what?
The ground feed, buckwheat flour, wheat, rye, and buckwheat, corn. The grist mill was, well, you can see in the picture, was high.
Yeah, and
2 floors.
And it was right below here, you say, right behind us.
Yeah, that's where it was, right there.
That was in operation longer than the heading mill up above, wasn't it?
Yes, that was in 1920.
Yeah, that far through there. What about down here? Was there another dam? You say there was a...
There was the lower dam was right across there where you see it narrows up there.
I see.
And I say it was.
And then below that was that sawmill you're
The
talking
up and down sawmill.
I see, right. So there were really 3 large holding sections. One here, one which we saw before.
Yeah.
Okay, that was good. That was good enough. Okay, well, I think we're finished here. Yeah, I think we're finished here. Oh, okay. Could we, maybe you could stand out here if you're not afraid of heights.
No.
Can you tell us any more that you haven't told us about the mill up here?
No.
Any stories you remember about it? Anybody fall in or
No.
drink too much cider or something like that?
No, but some of the neighbor children were in swimming when the grist mill was running, and I believe it was Lawrence Shurter. One of the girls started to go through here. It was the Calder girl. Started to go towards that pipe, and Lawrence pulled her out. Yeah.
Saved your life.
Yes. They shouldn't have. They shouldn't go swimming when the mills were running.
Yeah,
because there was like a big T here, like a down there was probably so wide, and then there was like a post up.
Yeah.
And you had to pull that back to let the water into the big pipe.
Well, where is this Kelder woman now? Is she still alive?
Yes, she lives in Long Island.
Yeah.
She married a fellow down and went there to live. But of course she was Bradford Calder's sister.
Huh. I bet she remembers too
Yeah, she was telling about it. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's a great story. Sure.
She was telling that last summer.
Yeah.